An unfathomable world. A world we know exists, but nobody wants to get to know.
The men incarcerated here are extremely dangerous.
Those are chopping up heads and everything.
Total anarchy.
Another inmate attacked me. He stabbed my eye.
The more corrupt, the better for me.
Behind bars is a struggle just to survive.
I won't hurt anybody else. I just hurt myself.
And only the strongest will survive.
I keep on fighting to get out of here for them.
Their lives are always in somebody else's hands.
Pretty much caged animals. They'll lock you up and throw away the key.
Behind bars. In the toughest prisons in the world. Bogota, Colombia. For decades, the megalopolis has been fighting against cultural decline. Against the ever-widening gap between rich and poor. 27% of the city's 8 million inhabitants live below the poverty line. The biggest fight, the fight against drugs. No country is better known for narcotics than Colombia, but a change is underway here too. Colombia is transforming from a country of drug producers into a country of drug users. The cost of drugs is steadily declining, and the rate of addiction is rising, and with it, criminal activity, as that's the only way most people can get money for their next high. A vicious circle, which, with great likelihood, ends here, in one of the toughest prisons in Colombia, Carcel Distrital. A daily struggle for survival takes place behind these walls, a struggle with guards and other inmates, and with oneself. "1,000 prisoners are serving sentences here or awaiting a verdict. Most of them sex offenders, dealers, or thieves. They are in control here.
I'm in charge of the yard.
Brutal altercations are a part of everyday prison life.
There are occasional stabbings in the cells.
And they leave their mark.
I was cut with a knife. My shirt was all bloody and someone threw it away.
Common causes of problems, drugs, and money. Most of the inmates can't get by without drugs, and the guards can do hardly anything about it.
No one pays for anything here.
The inmates play by different rules.
If you don't want to pay, we won't do anything anymore. It'll stay dirty here.
The most difficult struggle is the struggle with oneself.
If we don't get him fixed, I know he'll try to commit suicide again.
A struggle that many people lose. "5 in the morning. The streets outside are quiet. It's different behind the walls of this penitentiary. The guards have a lot to do today. They have to process 50 new prisoners. They've been transferred here from an overcrowded jail. One of them, 22-year-old Diego de Jesus. This is his second time in prison, serving a 5-year sentence. He doesn't plan to come back again.
I have to think positive. I want to get out of here. It's full of difficult situations that you've got to deal with. It's also hard because you're separated from your family.
Diego first went to prison at the age of 15. He served 3 years for theft. His crime this time? Theft and illegal possession of a firearm. He's already spent 17 months in other prisons. His transfer was a surprise.
I had to pack quickly, so I wasn't able to pack all my things.
Each prison has its own rules. What was allowed in his last prison is not necessarily allowed here in the penitentiary. That's why many new arrivals have things with them that they're not allowed to keep.
That's prohibited.
I forgot.
SIM cards, however, are prohibited in all prisons. The new arrivals are extremely creative in their attempts to smuggle things into the prison, things that make their lives in jail easier or safer.
We've found scissors like these hidden quite well inside clothing. Prisoners can use them to hurt others or themselves, or even the prison staff.
That's how problems are dealt with here in jail. So it's important to search the new arrivals as carefully as possible. Despite the jail's strict rules, the prisoners are allowed to bring small personal items with them that have no material value.
This is from my wife and son. My son died. He's dead.
It's not the first painful loss he's had to bear. Diego lost his parents when he was still a child. He was raised by his grandparents. He got to know the brutal side of life early on, like many inmates here. Fertile soil for a broken path towards a life of crime. The 50 new arrivals have to be processed. It will take about 12 hours. But not all of them will stay here. If the upcoming examinations reveal that an inmate is ill, either physically or mentally, he gets sent back to the other jail. At the same time, the lights go on in one of the men's cell blocks. Every day, the nearly 1,000 inmates get up at 5 a.m. and are locked back in at 5 p.m. In those 12 hours, they are only allowed to be in the yard. And there, he's in charge. 23-year-old Nicolas Garcia.
Water! God be with you. Thank you.
Nicolas has been serving a sentence here for robbery for 1.5 years now. It's his second time in prison. He knows how he has to behave behind bars in order to survive.
I'm in charge of the yard. There's lots of unrest and no order. I've seen lots of fights, and I've won a couple too.
As the boss on this cell block, Nicolas has many duties.
This pavilion has thieves and also some sex offenders. I have to intercede to make sure they don't go after one another.
Leaders and gangs are prohibited here, but factions nevertheless manage to emerge and take control. They take care of a few things and maintain order, but they also shake down their fellow inmates when something doesn't suit them. This, in turn, alarms the guards. In total, the prison has 150 guards, 18 junior officers, and 3 lieutenants. They make sure the inmates feel the necessary harshness and discipline. Still, there are daily altercations. The reason? Boredom or power struggles. That's why all the guards always carry batons and handcuffs.
Sometimes there are knife fights in the cells in the morning.
What do you want me to do? What do you want? We're going.
The potential for conflict in the jail is very high. Many hardened criminals are confined in a small space. The nearly 1,000 inmates are divided into 6 cell blocks, 1 woman's cell block and 5 men's cell blocks. Nicholas is sitting in the yard for those prisoners who've already been sentenced. The other 4 are for male inmates awaiting a final sentence. The back part of the prison contains the kitchen, the section for solitary confinement, and the workshops, in which certain inmates work for 4 hours during the day. The smaller building is for the prison's administrators. This is also where the visitors check in and new prisoners are processed. Diego, the new inmate, must wait for 1 hour before his processing continues, penned up with 25 other newbies. This is the 3rd prison he's been in, and each one is different in its own way. In the last prison, the inmates didn't have to wear standard prison clothing, but here they do.
You've got to start over. That's normal. Like when you start a new job, you've got to learn everything over again. Where you can stand, what you can do, how things work.
The prisoners are allowed to have 1 change of clothing in their cells. They wear it on wash day. Otherwise, they are always required to wear the orange prison uniform. No prisoner should be distinguishable from the others. Individuality is not tolerated here.
You can bring toiletries with you. You have to wear a light undershirt. You can take a few things out of the bag to take with you. Toiletries, foot powder, deodorant, toothpaste, razors. Please take all these things out now.
The inmates aren't allowed to take anything else, nor could they. 4 prisoners have to share a 6 by 10 foot cell. Each cell has a toilet and a sink. The beds, 4 concrete slabs with mattresses. Each prisoner has his own small shelf for personal items. They're never even supposed to have the opportunity to feel comfortable.
Diego.
Now it's time for the next step in Diego's processing. The guards have to take fingerprints from every prisoner. It's not enough for the files to simply be transferred from the other prison, for the fingerprints could have changed, for example, due to scars. But the guards take fingerprints not only from those who are new to the prison, but also from inmates who leave the prison, like John Fernando González Diaz, who's being taken to the hospital for an examination. But there's a problem.
You have to wear the orange shirt neatly and be shaved. You haven't shaved. You can't go to the examination without being decently shaved.
I was cut with a knife. My shirt was all bloody and someone threw it away.
John Fernando has been here for 3 years. He shot someone during a robbery.
This is jail.
A couple days ago, he got into a fight with another inmate. John Fernando seriously wounded him. For many prisoners, violence is the only way to survive here.
All the prisons here in Colombia, they are tough, for sure. If you don't see what you're doing, even they can kill you, you know? Probably you can't get out of here, you know? That's why you have to always be looking out. While you're walking, who you're looking, who you're talking to, you know? All the time, you gotta be looking out all the time, all the time.
This is already John Fernando's 4th time in jail. His body bears the marks of the years he's served, in the form of scars and tattoos.
This one I make it in Mexico. It means God bless me, never happens again. This one, it means I fight with 2 guys in Mexico too, in jail. One of them is dead. The other one, I take out eye, that's right. And the Colombian flowers is come out from the Mexican skull, you know? And my stars, 3 times in jail, 3 times be out.
John Fernando is a notorious thief, and he has no compunction about using weapons. That's how he earns his living, and he hopes to make a lot of money. Many of the inmates never learned any other way to make a living. It's the easiest way, albeit a hard one, that usually leads directly to prison. John Fernando is leaving the prison walls for the first time in 3 years. Naturally, he is heavily guarded, as is the case with every prisoner transport. There is a great danger of escape, and a risk that accomplices outside the jail will try to free the prisoners. Whereas the guards usually only carry batons, here they protect themselves with bulletproof vests and a gun. So far, all attempts to escape or to free prisoners have been thwarted. Such transports take place every day. Inmates often pretend to be sick in order to get out, and then smuggle things back in. Colombia is a country in which bribery is normal. This is how many prisoners obtain contraband from the hospital, which they then smuggle into the prison. And to prevent this, the inspections are very thorough. Even though it's a prison, there are still drugs here. Many of the inmates are addicted or take drugs to make their everyday lives more bearable. Since the guards don't always find everything, drug-sniffing dogs are used. Diego, the new inmate, knows that the first hours in prison are decisive.
You can't cause problems. If you do, then you have even more problems. You have to behave really well in order to get released early. And when I get out, I want to help my grandmother.
New inmate processing also includes a medical exam. Anyone found to be sick is not allowed to have contact with the other inmates. The risk of infection is too great. At 5:45, the guards close the cells for 12 hours. From now on, the prisoners must stay in the yards of their respective cell blocks. There is no opportunity to spend time alone, find peace or quiet, or enjoy privacy. As he does every morning, Nicholas, the boss, marks his territory. 14 people belong to his gang. Each has his own jobs, handed out by the boss, of course.
Buddy, help with the cleaning. Get out of the way so they can clean. Clear the court.
The prison has rules and routines, but the prisoners expand on them in their own way.
Some people clean in exchange for a sentence reduction. But since they can't keep everything clean themselves, 2 or 3 people help out. On Sunday, they get paid for it. We demand 35 cents or cigarettes. We don't keep the money, but pass it on to the men who do the cleaning.
Money is prohibited in the prison. Payment is made in cigarettes or telephone PIN numbers. They're worth a lot here, as they enable contact to the outside world. In order to use the phone, inmates have to have a PIN number which gives them credit. The telephone cards themselves are provided by family or friends on the outside. The more rules there are, the more people break them. Nicholas sees himself as an intermediary between prisoners, but also between inmates and guards.
I have to stop the fights that break out here. If fights take place, I lose my status. I am the people. I'm the one in charge.
Most of the inmates accept Nicolas. He must fight regularly to prove that he belongs at the top of his cell block. The guards tolerate Nicolas as boss as long as he works in their interests. If he doesn't, his will be the first head to roll. The inmates know that too.
There's always one person there in case things get chaotic. But this person must have character, be strong. Otherwise, many people will try to bring him down and take his place. Like a president is in charge of his government, there also has to be someone here who's in charge of the yard.
Officially, the guards are in charge of the yard. But there's a big problem. The guards can be bribed, but they try to avoid conflicts with the inmates. The guards know that there are drugs here and that many inmates use them. From morning to night, the inmates smoke marijuana, take cocaine, or get high on bazuco, a cheap byproduct of cocaine production. It all goes on right under the guards' noses, but they put up with it, since they can't stop it completely anyway.
There are many ways for forbidden substances to find their way into the prison. They can be brought in by visitors on visiting day, or they can be thrown into the pavilions from outside. There are many ways to get contraband inside.
Throwing things over the prison walls is one of the most popular and effective ways of smuggling contraband into the jail. Quick as lightning, one of the inmates grabs the package that's been thrown in. A lot of thought goes into the concealment of smuggled goods. Drugs, weapons, and cell phones are wrapped up in many small pieces of paper. Everything is quickly distributed and hidden until the guards have nothing left to find except the letters that are also in the packages. And the prisoners explain them in their own way.
They were letters. A family member decides to write and sends them.
One example, I was arrested with an accomplice. He's in the other yard, so he sends me a letter to tell me we have a hearing on a certain day. The letters are about that kind of thing.
The penitentiary's location makes it an easy target for this kind of smuggling. The cell blocks are surrounded on one or two sides by public streets, and the yards have no roofs. Not all the packages make it to the yards. They land on the roofs and then on this table. The lieutenant is taking pictures of the contents of 15 packages that were all thrown in 1 week, but that didn't hit their target.
We have a couple of greenish substances here. Looks like marijuana. And the stuff here comes wrapped in individual portions. It's another way to smuggle drugs, swallowing them or hiding them in body cavities. That's why the guards often can't find drugs, but the dogs can.
Only a fraction of the packages remains on the roof. Most make their way into the yard, but that doesn't always mean trouble.
According to Colombian law, possessing, selling, and transporting drugs is illegal. If we find someone with more than 20 grams, that is more than 20 grams of marijuana, or 1 gram of bazuco, if we find someone with more than this dose, then we prosecute him.
Even in prison, this law applies. Prosecution means a longer prison sentence. The mills of justice grind very slowly in Colombia. First, the prosecutor stipulates a sentence that the prisoner is allowed to challenge. But until that happens, years often pass. Thus, although most of the prisoners have not yet been sentenced, they sit behind bars for years and wait. The only way to reduce one's sentence is to work in the workshops. The sentence is reduced by the amount of time the prisoners work. The problem? There are too few for too many inmates. Thus, some hope to be transferred to other prisons where there are more workstations. But that doesn't usually happen until they're sentenced. Back to Diego. The new inmates are still being processed. They've been here for 4 hours. Now, it's time for a haircut. There are clear guidelines for the barber. The clipper must be set to 2 millimeters. The inmates have to get their hair cut regularly, or they do it themselves, with smuggled razor blades. For once, an appropriate use of contraband. Then it's time to record the prisoner's personal information. Previous convictions, family, scars, tattoos. Everything is taken down.
I have a scar on my arm.
A burn?
No, it happened when I got a tattoo.
Where? Right arm?
Right.
Okay. What's it say?
My mom's name.
Rotate your arm. Turn it over.
The last step in the information gathering process, mugshots. For over 80% of the inmates, this is a familiar routine. It's not their first time in prison, and it probably won't be their last. In the cell block for sentenced inmates, it's all about surviving and somehow getting through the day. Nicholas takes the opportunity to rap out his frustration.
Calle, mundo de ilusiones, sentimientos, pasiones, adicto al peligro sin padrinos, humilde y sencillo, talento callejero con esfero, plasmo letras en cuaderno, con papel y lapicero, parcero, elocuente de mente, plasmo letras en tu mente con mensajes contundentes.
Nicholas raps about life in prison, weapons, and violence. But back in the corner, they don't only rap about violence. Practice fights take place there, with no weapons and no injuries. The inmates show off their fighting skills, but often things get out of hand.
If you have to fight, then you have to. Sometimes even with a knife. The camera doesn't reach back here, so this is where we do it.
Nicholas sustained several injuries in his last fight. Since then, his pinky has been stiff. There's no shortage of reasons to fight here.
The boy doesn't like black people. Then he started screaming in the yard, "I don't like blacks! Who should I fight?" I came into the yard and tried to stay calm and not worry about it. But the boy wouldn't leave me alone, so we fought.
Most altercations arise because of stealing, unpaid debts, drugs, or simply out of boredom. And no fight ends without injuries. Almost everyone here has a weapon: knives, scissors, needles. There's even a man in Nicholas's gang who is responsible for replenishing the supply of weapons. Wrapped up and camouflaged, the knives are barely noticeable. Many of the inmates don't just turn weapons on others, but also on themselves. Nicholas is one of them.
I'm bipolar, so I have radical mood swings. Seeing blood helps me keep myself under control. But I don't do anything to anyone else, just to myself. I used to go to a psychiatrist every month, and he gave me pills. But I don't have any anymore. I took them all.
New prisoners are examined by a psychologist as part of their processing. But many disorders and problems only develop during their stay in prison. Cutting oneself is a standard method of numbing the pain and the desperation. The prisoners receive no proper psychological treatment. Again and again, there are inmates who try to put an end to their time in prison by putting an end to their own lives. Like this young prisoner. He's already tried to jump from the highest floor into the yard 3 times. His fellow inmates managed to stop him. Today is his latest suicide attempt. He tried to hang himself with a t-shirt. The handcuffs are meant to protect him from himself.
The situation with this guy is difficult. He's overwhelmed. He has strong suicidal tendencies. We have to pay close attention to him until he goes to the hospital. If we don't get him fixed, I know he'll try to commit suicide again.
Such situations set off the guards' alarm bells. Some of the inmates use this as an excuse to get more attention and special treatment. For this reason, strict examinations are carried out first. There is no room for pity here.
He's been here for 1 month. It's his first time. In general, the first time is difficult. They're often depressed because they're separated from their families.
The young inmate lost his girlfriend. She committed suicide. He wanted to join her. Many of the inmates must struggle with such strokes of fate. The families also suffer from the separation. John Fernando's wife, for example, for 3 years, she's had to raise their child all by herself. After the medical examination in the hospital, the prisoners return to their cell blocks. And in this cell block, John Fernando is the boss. He oversees the routines, the dealing with drugs and weapons. He is supported by a 12-man crew. Here, he has the same role as Nicholas does in his yard. And the 2 men have known each other for a long time.
Told that he was right here. He was my boy too. He used to work for me too. But he fought with somebody else, somebody that is here, and he stabbed him really bad. The other kid is a little kid, but the little kid is so bad, you know. He like to stab people just for nothing, you know. So that's why they changed him. And he now is the boss over there. You see how he thinks. Here he have to listen to me. Over there, probably if I get there, I have to listen to him. Who knows? Or fight with him. Who knows? You know, but he's my friend still, but he's a bad guy. He got himself, he's crazy.
And this is the guy Nicholas fought with. The guy who doesn't like, quote-unquote, blacks. Many inmates wear their scars proudly. They show that they don't run away from fights. Things aren't going so well for Nicholas in his cell block at the moment. His dealings, the fact that he demands money and cigarettes from others, have been discovered. He and a member of his gang are even supposed to have threatened another inmate with a knife, and not for the first time. The prison has to investigate accusations like this.
I don't like your innocent attitude. You've got to clear this up with the boy. I don't want you to harm him again. If you do, you'll get solitary confinement. We've respected you. We respect your rights. But you don't respect the others. You don't give a shit. This changes now. If you do it again, and I don't care if you cut each other's ears off, you'll never get out of solitary.
Solitary confinement also means an extension of the sentence, or that the current sentence cannot be reduced. Constant misbehavior leads to power struggles between the guards and the inmates, and the inmates always get the short end of the stick.
There's a little problem. So we've got to behave.
The little problem has widespread effects. The head of discipline and the lieutenant make an announcement to all the prisoners. Today they're just talking, but acts of disobedience are often quickly met with a baton.
That's another issue. But security is paramount, and that's why we're here today.
Gentlemen, first, you've all been sentenced and will be here a long time. You should know that no one pays money for anything. Not to the guards, not to the administration, not to the inmates. I'll say this today nicely, for the first and the last time. No one may cheat or beat on others. No one.
Even if some of the inmates feel threatened by Nicholas and his gang, everyone is against the guards and the lieutenants. Instead of simply giving in and behaving peacefully, now they really start to get restless.
It's difficult. We have to check it out. It's the third time they've said it.
In such heated situations, things can also get dangerous for the guards and the prison employees. Many of the inmates are not shy about resorting to violence even with them. Nicholas wants to confront the people who ratted on him.
Everyone!
The first commandment, never tell on another inmate, has been broken. And there's a lot at stake for Nicholas.
I've called you here to talk about something. Several people have complained that we're extorting you. If you feel extorted because you have to pay 35 cents or a cigarette, then we'll stop cleaning. We won't do anything anymore, and we'll let the yard stay dirty. Why? Someone complained to the people at the top that we demand money or cigarettes. It's not for us, it's for the cleaners. But if you don't want to pay, then don't. And then we won't clean.
In the jail, 35 cents or cigarettes are worth a lot. Sometimes guards make deals with inmates in order to get information. Then it's easy to betray a fellow inmate.
I don't know who it was, but they're attacking me for the money you pay for cleaning.
Just like a president must take blame for his government, Nicholas must take the blame for his yard.
If I ask for money again, they'll put me on trial. And they don't clean for free.
There are official cleaners and people Nicholas chooses to clean. Then only the official cleaners will work.
The inmates fear solitary confinement, not only because of the extra prison time, but also because of the cell itself. The solitary confinement cells are like a prison within a prison. The light goes on here at 5 a.m. and goes off at 5 p.m. Daylight only shines through the small grate at the ceiling. Mattresses and blankets are removed from the cells during the day. Only the concrete slab remains. Twice a day, the inmates are allowed to take a walk accompanied by a guard in an isolated yard. The isolation itself is the worst punishment.
You get bored in the cell. You're in despair. You just want to beat your head against the wall. You're so desperate.
The solitary confinement cells also act as a kind of quarantine station for inmates with illnesses or wounds that have to heal. But some illnesses get worse here.
For example, this door fell off when a prisoner lit himself on fire in the cell. The prisoner lost control of himself. He's mentally ill and thought a devil commanded him to set fire to his cell.
The inmates are alone with themselves and their thoughts. That's the worst thing for them. New inmates have come to John Fernando's cell block today. It took 12 hours to process them. Diego is now officially a prisoner in the penitentiary. Although he recognizes faces from his last jail, he still has to learn how the inmates and the guards here tick.
Things are different here. It's not like the other jail.
After more than 12 hours, the newbies finally get something to eat. Bread, a banana, and avena, a Colombian oat beverage. But they don't have much time. Soon the prisoner's official representative will give them an introduction. This man is the guard's mouthpiece to the inmates. It's his job to explain the jail's rules to the new arrivals.
This is a community. We don't want any brawling, either with older or younger inmates. This is a place for coming together. Second, there is no stealing here, although there are thieves. We call them brooms. If you're a broom, you won't do well here.
Translation: stealing will get you beat up. Diego must now internalize these rules in order to avoid having problems. Most prisoners obey the rules in the beginning, but the longer they're here, the more daring they get. Like Nicolas. The upheaval has now calmed down somewhat and will soon subside entirely. Before the cell doors close for the evening, some of the inmates get medication. The doctor only distributes pills to inmates with a prescription and an official medical diagnosis. Many prisoners try to get medication this way, so a watchful eye is necessary. The prisoners are given insulin syringes, medication for flu symptoms, and antipsychotics. They're not prescribed to the individual needs of mentally ill patients, however. They're just tranquilizers. Every few months, a psychologist conducts examinations, but usually nothing changes. Too many inmates with different problems means excessive costs for the local government. Like every evening, the prisoners must now line up to be counted. This is how the guards make sure everyone is present, but it also lets them show the inmates that they're just numbers to them. The prisoners' day ends at 5 p.m. They have 10 minutes to get ready. For Diego, it's a new experience. In the other prisons, the inmates decided when they went to bed. But one thing will not change for Diego here.
It's better to be a loner in prison. A bad friend only causes problems. And I don't want any problems. So distance is good. That's how you stay away from problems. This prison is ultimately a community. You respect others so that they'll respect you.
We just want to stay alive and respect each other.
But everyone has their own definition of respect in prison. The cell doors stay closed for 12 hours. For grown men who are used to doing whatever they want outside of prison, this is hard to take. But that's exactly the point. It's a disciplinary measure.
The day's over. I'm exhausted. I hope I sleep well.
Another day gone. That's what everyone here thinks. One day of many still to come. Every day, altercations between inmates and guards. Every day, the hope of early release. Every day, worrying about families waiting on the outside. Every day, struggles with oneself and the fear of ending up back here, behind bars. John Fernando still has 2 years on his sentence, and he is awaiting another trial. His family must continue to make do without him.
A month ago, when my wife told me that she was pregnant, I'm really happy because I wanted to have a kid. I wanted to have a little girl, and I think God gave me that opportunity, and that's nice, you know? That's my happiness, and that's it. Just trying to make this easier and get out of here and never come back, hopefully. That's right. That's all what I can tell you.
Nicolas continues to struggle with his bipolar disorder. He hopes to get out in 3 months, to see his mother, and then to finally take another path.
A friend on the outside and I want to do a song together.
Diego will spend 4 more years behind bars. His biggest wish, to be able to see his wife and grandmother again after 1 year. They all have one goal in common: to turn their backs on the hardships of prison life and to never come back here again. A goal that very few will achieve.